You ever see somebody and you just want to go up and ask them? You just want to say, "Man, what is your story? What is this guy's story? How did he get to be in this predicament, or how did he get to be of some kind of appearance that he is in, or what have you?" That happened to me earlier today. Even earlier than that, interesting way to start off my day. Mac, if you don't know, that's my dog. He's an 11-year-old pit bull. Vomited on my shoes. So this makes me late for work because I can't go to work with vomit shoes. I just can't. And currently it's either those or like good shoes that I don't want to mess up in other ways. So, excuse me. Oh, this is a bumpy road. I of course had to wash them and dry them, and they didn't get completely dry. They're like not so wet that I'm gonna end up with the prunes, but it's just enough to remind me that Mac barfed on my shoes. Wouldn't be terribly wet feet considering what I've been through this week with all that rain. So I guess my tolerance for damp feet has probably been given a slight boost because of all that, because I do not like having wet feet. I don't know about you guys, but that is just the worst. Well, anyway, so I saw this man pushing a two-wheeled cart, and on his two-wheel cart is what I'm going to guess was pretty much all of his possessions. He had a little dog, maybe Jack Russell size, looked to be in very good health, that he was walking on a leash. He had a warm coat and a gray beard, gray hair, and there was what is at first I thought it was like a lounge chair, but I think it was a cot and a sleeping bag, and there was one of those round pieces of luggage. What it makes me think of, the big hats that people wear to the Kentucky Derby, the box that would be transported in, as luggage. So there's a round piece of luggage. I mean, I don't know what it's for. Then just some other, basic essentials. And what I've painted the picture of up until this point is, and forgive this language if it's offensive to anyone, is a homeless man. And maybe, except everything that he had from the cart itself, the wheels on the cart were red. The tires, not the wheels, the tires were red. All of the items on the cart looked new, or at least very clean, but basically looked new. The clothes that he was wearing looked good. His dog looked like it was in perfect health. And nothing about him looked particularly unkept. Which has me curious, are these items that were donated to him? Did he recently purchase these items? I don't know. I don't suppose I spend a whole lot of time thinking about the lives of those who live that way. And I, of course, don't mean to assume anything about this person. I'm just I suppose using my creativity to try to imagine what it's like to be him. Now, as you know, I'm in construction, and if you're from that world, you know that you can always spot the new guy because of his tools. Chances are, if they have a proper, framing hammer, it still looks new. The waffles on the head aren't marred up from banging on countless, nail heads, and things of that nature. But normally it's the wrong hammer. It's one of those homeowner curved claw hammers that no one actually uses, really. I mean, I'm sure there'll be, I use, okay. On construction crews, especially ones that frame houses or do other types of, framing carpentry, it's a framing hammer. It's, 20 plus ounces typically with a nice long straight handle. A few people will try that axe handle, and I am guilty. I've tried the axe handle. Doesn't suit me. A lot of people will have the steel handled with the blue rubber grip Est-wing hammer. I do not care for. I don't mind replacing. I'm going off on a tangent about hammers. Don't think that I forgot what I was getting at. I would rather replace my hammer every, 5 years, because the wood has gotten too splintery or the head has come off. I don't mind replacing that from time to time. And from time to time, your tools will get replaced. But, this newbie greenhorn, FNG, whatever you want to call him, on the job site, and the same type of thing happens with mechanics, which is another line of work that I've been in my lifetime. You can tell by their tools basically how long they've been in the business, or at least that they have not been in very long. If all of their tools still look new, the cords on their power tools are still all kinked up, their skill saw is not a worm drive like eventually you usually end up with. I've had a few worm drives, and I do prefer them. They are big and heavy at first, not to go off on another tool tangent, but they have the regular Sidewinder type, and they're probably wrong-handed, and they have all the safety mechanisms on them, and the cord still has all those kinks in it where it was wadded up super tight from the factory, and none of their tools are covered in paint or drywall mud or glue or any of that kind of stuff. Their nail belt, if they have a tool belt, a lot of times it'll be that kind of suede belt or canvas, but probably that suede belt where the pouches are riveted to a cloth belt that is like it's like an oversized dog collar. It clicks together, and it's not configurable at all. It just has these kind of soft pouches, and it's murder to wear. It cuts your circulation off to where your legs go numb, and you end up with just a miserable waistline. If you're new in construction, it would be worth it to hit up a pawn shop and buy some used tools that have already lived a life. I know you're not going to get the best deal on those. I know you're not going to get your money's worth. But if you have some tools that looks like you've owned them for a while, you might trick a few people into thinking you have a clue what you're doing. at least for a few minutes, but first impressions are valuable. Anyway, but how does one begin to be, now I'm careful with this word, but homeless, okay? How do you start out a life that way? I've never lived that, so I am asking. I am curious. Are there organizations that donate supplies to homeless people? I'm sure there are. I mean, I would. Most of us are willing to donate things to people who have fallen on hard times. But what is the first day like? Right? I think of a lot of people maybe staying in their car, or they've been kicked out, or they, I think maybe you had someone who, I've got all these little stories that I can imagine, like a teenager, maybe 16, 17 years old, gets mad at his parents and moves out, and doesn't quite have his act together yet, and bums on some friends' couches for a while and whatnot. And you can take that route and still wind up as a productive member of society with home ownership and pension, or insurance, or all those kinds of things that make us generally domesticated. But one thing leads to another. A lot of times we attribute homelessness to either drug addiction, which I'm sure it happens, or mental instability, which I'm sure happens too. But is that the only way? Is to be altered? I don't know. In the area where I live, it's been growing fairly regularly. We had a slow spot just like the rest of the country did, several years ago, but it's not particularly difficult to have some kind of a job, and the housing is such that chances are you can afford to get a place if you work hard, right? If you are able to hold down, a job. Mathematically, it's probably difficult if you're only making minimum wage to live by yourself, but if you're willing to have a roommate, things like that, you can probably get by. But if you're not able to hold down a job, if you don't have some, form of income, some kind of cash flow, how do you do it? How do you get by? I don't know. I empathize with people, and mostly people who have had similar struggles to me. I've never been homeless. But, I would happily, sit down and listen to the story of someone who either is or has. Anyway, what do you guys think? Are there people who decide, you know what, I've had enough of the society the way it is, of working hard to give money to others, creditors, landlords, things of that nature, and they just say, you know what, I'm done. I'm out. No more supporting other people. I'm on my own. And they just do it. I don't know, maybe. All right. Let me know. I'm curious about this. God is good.